The Middle East is on edge. One has the region's most powerful military. The other is rapidly enriching uranium. One calls the other a cancer. The other swears it will never allow a nuclear Iran. This is not just politics. This is personal. This is religious. This is historical. But how did it come to this? How did two nations, once allies, become sworn enemies? To understand the present, we must return to the past. In the 1950s, Iran and Israel had more in common than people today might think. Both were non-Arab states surrounded by hostile neighbours. Both were deeply aligned with the West, and both feared the rising tide of Arab nationalism. Israel quickly recognized Iran under the rule of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. What followed was a quiet but powerful partnership. Trade agreements flowed, especially oil. Iran's oil fields fueled Israeli industry, while Israeli agricultural technology was exported to Iran. Behind the scenes, the collaboration went even deeper. Israel's Mossad worked directly with Savak, the Shah's brutal secret police, sharing intelligence and surveillance techniques. Iran became one of Israel's few Muslim partners in a hostile region. Though never made public, Israel operated a de facto diplomatic mission in Tehran. Arms deals, intelligence sharing, and covert operations flourished under the radar. For over 2 decades, Iran and Israel quietly shaped the region together. But this alliance was not built to last, because in 1979, everything changed. January 1979, the Iranian Revolution erupts. The Shah is overthrown, and a new voice emerges, one that will change the Middle East forever. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, a cleric who had spent years in exile, returned to Iran as the face of a new Islamic republic. And one of his first messages to the world was clear. Iran would no longer tolerate the existence of Israel. In a historic and symbolic move, Iran shut down the Israeli embassy in Tehran and handed the building to the Palestine Liberation Organization. The message was loud and clear. Israel was now the enemy. Iran became the first country in modern times to officially reject Israel's right to exist. No more oil deals, no more intelligence sharing. Instead, Iran began funneling support to Palestinian resistance movements like Hamas and Islamic Jihad. The alliance was not just broken, it was reversed. A friendship buried, replaced by a bitter ideological war, one that would echo through the next 4 decades. The 1980s marked a new phase. Iran and Israel were no longer just enemies, they were on opposite sides of a growing proxy war. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon to fight the PLO. But it wasn't just Palestinians in the fight. Iran saw an opportunity and took it. From the chaos of the Lebanese civil war, Iran helped form and fund a new militant group, Hezbollah. Hezbollah, meaning Party of God, was trained and armed by Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Its mission? Resistance against Israel's occupation of Lebanon and the destruction of the Israeli state. Suddenly, Iran had a direct presence on Israel's northern border. Meanwhile, Iran was locked in a brutal 8-year war with Iraq, a conflict that cost over 1 million lives. But what few knew at the time, Israel quietly supported Iraq's efforts to contain Iran. though Iraq under Saddam Hussein was also a sworn enemy of Israel. In this case, the enemy of my enemy became a strategic partner. Israel reportedly provided spare parts, arms, and even intelligence to Baghdad, all to weaken the growing threat of the Islamic Republic. In 1987, the first Palestinian Intifada broke out. Iran ramped up its support for Palestinian factions, including Islamic Jihad and later Hamas. While Israel fought street battles, Iran was funding resistance from behind the scenes, using money, weapons, and ideology. By the 1990s, Iran and Israel weren't directly fighting, but they were engaged in a regional Cold War, a shadow conflict that would define the decades ahead. No longer facing each other as nations, they battled through proxies, militias, and covert operations. The guns were mostly silent between Israel and Iran. Beneath the surface, the seeds of a much larger conflict were being sown, and in the 2000s, the stakes would grow higher than ever before. By the early 2000s, the tension between Iran and Israel had evolved. No longer just ideological or regional, it was now existential. In 2002, the world was stunned when a secret Iranian nuclear facility was exposed in Natanz. The Islamic Republic insisted it was peaceful, but Israel and much of the West didn't believe it. Israel saw the writing on the wall. A nuclear Iran would tip the balance of power in the region and could one day threaten its very survival. In 2009, the world entered a new kind of battlefield: cyber warfare. Israeli intelligence, working with the United States, launched one of the most sophisticated cyber attacks in history, Stuxnet. The virus quietly infiltrated Iranian centrifuges, machines that enrich uranium, and cause them to spin out of control and self-destruct. No bombs dropped, no boots on the ground, just silent sabotage. And it worked. Iran's program was set back by years, but Israel didn't stop at code. In the early 2010s, a chilling new strategy emerged: targeted assassinations. One by one, Iranian nuclear scientists were killed. Some shot in traffic, others killed by magnetic bombs attached to their cars, all with one message: you are not safe. Iran blamed Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency. Israel never confirmed or denied involvement, but it was clear: the war was now personal. As the threat of conflict loomed, the international community stepped in. Harsh economic sanctions were imposed on Iran, crippling its economy. Diplomatic channels opened, and by 2015, Iran signed a historic deal with world powers, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or the Iran Nuclear Deal. Under the deal, Iran agreed to limit uranium enrichment in exchange for economic relief. For a brief moment, the shadow war cooled. But beneath the surface, both sides prepared for the next move. Israel believed the deal was a dangerous illusion. Iran believed Israel would never stop coming. The 2010s would prove that peace was just an illusion, and that the Cold War was far from over.
By the 2010s, the Israel-Iran conflict had spread, not through direct war, but through a vast web of proxy battles and regional power plays.
With US forces toppling Saddam Hussein in Iraq and the Syrian civil war tearing the region apart, Iran saw opportunity. Through the elite Quds Force, Iran armed, trained, and funded militias across the Middle East. From Iraq's Shia militias to Syria's defense of Bashar al-Assad to Yemen's Houthis, Iran was expanding its power, creating what Israel called the Shia Crescent. And at the center of this strategy was one man, General Qasem Soleimani, the mastermind of Iran's regional operations.
Israel responded with a clear message: we will not allow Iran to entrench itself on our borders. Beginning around 2013, Israel launched hundreds of airstrikes inside Syria, targeting Iranian weapons shipments, military bases, and Hezbollah infrastructure. These were not announced publicly, but the message was clear. Israel would not wait for war to come. It would strike first.
In a stunning twist, 2020 brought something Iran never expected: Arab states recognizing Israel. Under the Abraham Accords, countries like the UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco normalized relations with Israel. Trade opened, flights began, diplomacy blossomed. For Iran, this was a nightmare. Not only was Israel stronger, it was now encircled by Arab allies. Tehran's regional influence was under threat. In response, Iran strengthened ties with Hamas in Gaza, providing missiles, funds, and training. Every conflict between Israel and Gaza was now a proxy fight.
When rockets flew from Gaza, Iran's fingerprints were often behind them. By the end of the 2010s, Iran and Israel were locked in a regional Cold War unlike any other. Bombs fell in Syria, rockets launched from Gaza, militias moved like chess pieces, and diplomacy crumbled. Both sides claimed they wanted peace, but both were preparing for something bigger. And then, 2020 changed everything.
The 2020s didn't begin with peace. They began with a strike that shook the world and pushed Iran and Israel closer than ever to open war.
On January 3, 2020, a US drone strike, reportedly with Israeli intelligence, killed Qasem Soleimani, Iran's most powerful military leader. To Israel,
Soleimani was the architect of Iran's shadow empire. To Iran, he was a national hero. His death was an act of war. Tens of thousands flooded the streets of Tehran. Iran vowed revenge, not just on the US, but on Israel as well. What followed was a shadow war at sea. Iranian and Israeli ships began mysteriously attacking each other, using mines, drones, and sabotage. Oil tankers were struck in the Red Sea. Israeli cargo ships burned in the Gulf. Both sides denied, deflected, and retaliated in silence. A maritime Cold War had begun, silent, deadly, and deniable. In 2018, the US pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. In response, Iran ramped up uranium enrichment, far beyond allowed limits. Israel warned the world, Iran is weeks away from a bomb. Netanyahu made it clear. Israel would act alone if necessary. The red line was back. The clock was ticking. Israel increased air defences, conducted major military drills, and prepared for the possibility of a multi-front war. Iran moved more missiles into Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. Hezbollah's arsenal grew to over 100,000 rockets. A strike on Iran, Iran warned, would spark war across the region. It wasn't just tension anymore, it was preparation. Proxy attacks had become direct threats, and the line between shadow war and real war was wearing thin. After 70 years of tension, the next chapter could be the most dangerous of all. For more than 70 years, Iran and Israel have lived in the shadow of war, from secret allies to bitter enemies, from oil deals and handshakes to drone strikes and assassinations. It's a story of religion, power, betrayal, and survival. A quiet war fought through proxies, through code, through sabotage and whispers. And now, the whispers are becoming warnings. Both nations say they don't want war, but both are preparing for one. A single misstep, one missile, one assassination, one wrong move could set the entire region on fire. Iran believes it must resist. Israel believes it must strike first. And in the middle are millions of innocent people, caught between the past and a future that remains uncertain. This is not just a geopolitical struggle, this is a story of people, of pride, fear, and survival. If you like my channel, please subscribe for more. Thanks for watching me.